Why is it that the harder you try to please a woman, the faster she slips away, while the guy who barely tries keeps her chasing? That question isn't just frustrating, it's maddening. If you've ever sat staring at your phone, dissecting her texts like they're secret codes, you know the feeling. She replies, "Okay," with a period, and your stomach sinks. You overthink the emoji she didn't send, the delay in her reply, the tone you imagine behind her words. You're playing detective while she's half asleep on the couch, scrolling Netflix, barely remembering she hit send. Here's the first brutal truth. Women aren't analyzing your every move. They're not in group chats about your punctuation or calculating your boyfriend potential. They're simply moving through their day, reacting to how they feel in that moment. And that's where the real game begins. Not with her, but with you. Attraction isn't logic, it's emotion. It isn't about what you say on paper. It's about how she feels when she's with you. Most men keep chasing control, when what actually works is learning to read signals and play the emotional weather. This video is for men between 18 and 35 who've been ghosted, friend-zoned, or left asking, "What went wrong?" Stay with me, because in the next 10 minutes, you'll learn the exact tools to flip the script, how to read her emotional weather before you approach, how to respond when she vents so she feels closer instead of pushing you away, and how to build healthy tension when you text this week. Miss this, and you'll keep repeating the same mistakes. Watch closely, and you'll never look at attraction the same way again. Back in college, there was this girl who felt completely untouchable to me. She wasn't just pretty. She had that magnetic energy that made every guy notice the second she walked into the room. For weeks, I studied her like a project. I knew her class schedule, which coffee shop she liked, even the stack of books she carried around campus. I told myself, if I gather enough clues, I'll crack the code. So I rehearsed a perfect opener, polished every word in my head, and finally made my move. Heart racing, palms sweaty, I walked up and delivered the line I'd practiced dozens of times, and it landed with a thud. She barely heard me. Her cat was sick, and that was all she cared about that day. My flawless preparation meant nothing. 2 weeks later, everything changed. I ran into her at a party. No plan, no script. The music was blasting, so I leaned over and said something dumb about how my ears were probably ruined for life. She burst out laughing. We talked, we connected, and that night was the beginning of a relationship that lasted 2 years. That moment taught me what years of theory never could. Women don't respond to perfectly scripted lines. They respond to how they feel in the moment. Timing and state matter more than polish. If she's closed, nothing gets through. If she's open, almost anything can. So here's what you do. Before approaching, reset your state with what I call the 3R. Respire. Take 3 slow 4 and even 8 breaths. Relax. Let your shoulders drop and slow your speaking pace just a little. Reframe. Remind yourself your goal is the vibe, not the outcome. Then, read her emotional weather with the COT check. Context. What's happening in her day? Openness. How receptive does she look on a scale of 1 to 5? Tempo. Is her energy high or low, and can you match it? Do this and you stop trying to bend the storm, and instead, you learn how to sail with it. Most men believe women make choices logically, the way we decide which car to buy or which job to take. We think if we stack enough reasons, our career path, our stability, our kindness, she'll see the sense in choosing us. But attraction doesn't begin with logic. It begins with emotion. Ask a woman why she loves her boyfriend, and she'll give you a neat list. He's funny, he's supportive, he makes her feel safe. It sounds rational, but it's not the real origin. The spark came first. The justification came later. I call this the retrospective story. She feels something she can't explain, and then she builds an explanation around it. If she's drawn to a guy, she'll say it's because he's ambitious or witty. If she isn't, she'll frame it as immaturity or lack of chemistry. But the sequence never changes. Feeling first, reasoning second. That's why showing off your resume or bragging about your plans rarely works. You could tell her about your perfect credit score, your 5-year plan, your gym discipline. But if she doesn't feel that spark, none of it matters. On the other hand, she can fall for someone with none of those boxes checked because the emotions are alive. So what do you do instead? You stop trying to win her with logic and start focusing on emotional presence. Imagine she comes home complaining about her boss. Most men leap straight into solutions. Just tell him no. Just stand up for yourself. To us, that feels helpful. To her, it feels like dismissal. What she actually wants is resonance. This is where the vibe framework comes in. Validate her struggle. Say, that does sound stressful. Identify her feeling. So you felt tense, maybe frustrated? Bridge connection. I'm here, tell me more. Explore further. What part of it was hardest? And here's the rule that changes everything. Don't rush to fix. Wait at least 90 seconds after reflecting her feelings before you suggest anything. That small pause creates the sense of being heard, and often, that's all she was seeking. Every man at some point has tried the nice guy approach. You treat her like royalty. You answer instantly. You cancel your own plans to see her. You make her your world. And somehow, it never works. She drifts. She loses interest. And you sit there confused, wondering how being the good guy pushed her away. Here's the hard truth. The more you need her, the less she needs you. When your entire life bends around her, you stop being the man she's drawn to and start being just another fan in her audience. Predictable, easy, safe. And safe, ironically, is rarely sexy. Meanwhile, the guy she claims she shouldn't like often holds her attention longer. He's not always available. He doesn't abandon his life to orbit hers. He has his own plans, his own priorities, his own rhythm. That independence gives him gravity. He isn't playing games. He's simply not sacrificing himself for approval. And that tension is magnetic. But don't misunderstand. The answer isn't to be a jerk. It's to set boundaries and hold them. A simple shift makes a massive difference. Never cancel plans you've already made. If she asks, reschedule with calm confidence. Say, I've got the gym until 8, but I'll call you at 8:30. That line alone communicates self-respect. And here's another small adjustment. Match her rhythm in texting. One message for one message. Don't double text within 4 hours unless it's about logistics. It may feel minor, but it signals balance. You're interested, but not desperate. You're present, but not clinging. Women respect kindness, but they crave presence, independence, and a man who doesn't collapse under pressure. When you stop giving yourself away in hopes of being chosen, you flip the dynamic. You stop chasing her validation, and she starts noticing yours. I once had a friend who looked like the perfect boyfriend on paper. He was a lawyer, well-dressed, polite, and thoughtful. He remembered birthdays, planned elaborate dinners, and always agreed with whatever his girlfriend wanted. If you asked anyone, he was the dream. But his relationships never lasted more than 3 months. Every time, the girl would say something vague like, it just wasn't working, and quietly move on. One day, I watched one of his ex-girlfriends leave him for a bartender who lived with his mom and spent half his paycheck on gambling. On paper, it made no sense. But in reality, it made perfect sense. The bartender was a storm. One moment he was passionate. The next, he was distant. One week he planned trips. The next, he claimed he wasn't ready for commitment. She knew he was chaos, but she couldn't let go. She was hooked on the ride. That's the paradox. Women don't consciously want drama, but they crave the emotions that drama generates. Thrill, intensity, even frustration. Peace without passion feels empty. Fire, even when it burns, feels alive. Now, this doesn't mean you should play games or treat her badly. The goal is not to become toxic. The real lesson is that attraction is fueled by emotional variation, not just stability. Predictability kills desire. Uncertainty, when handled responsibly, keeps it alive. So here's how you create healthy intensity without being destructive. Follow the 70-30 rule. 70% of your plans should be structured and clear. She knows the time, the place, the basic flow. But 30% should be surprise, a playful twist, a curious question, a small challenge she didn't expect. That balance makes her feel secure without feeling bored. And don't be afraid of playful teasing. When she orders dessert, smirk and say, "You're the type who eats cake before dinner, aren't you? Let's test that theory." It's harmless, it's fun, and it creates those little spikes of emotional energy that keep her guessing in the best way possible. Here's another trap men fall into. Men listen to words for information. Women use words for emotion. When a man says something, he usually means exactly that. But when a woman speaks, the words are only the surface. The real message lies in her tone, her body language, her timing. That's why when she says, "It's fine," it usually isn't. When she says, "I don't care where we eat," she usually has a preference. And when she says, "We need to talk," it isn't a casual chat. It's a turning point. The biggest mistake men make is responding to her words while ignoring her feelings. She vents about her boss, and his instinct is to fix it. Just tell him off. Just quit. Just stand up for yourself. To him, that feels like help. To her, it feels like dismissal. She didn't want a solution. She wanted resonance. This is where the vibe framework changes everything. Imagine she sighs and says, "My boss kept piling work on me today. I can't stand it." Instead of fixing, you say, "That does sound stressful." That's validation. Then, "So you felt really overwhelmed?" That's identifying her emotion. Next, bridge connection. "I'm here, tell me more." Finally, explore. What part of it got to you the most? The effect is immediate. She relaxes. She opens. She feels understood. And when a woman feels seen, attraction deepens. But here's the key. Apply the 90-second rule. After you've reflected her feelings, wait. Don't jump in with fixes until at least a minute and a half has passed. That pause gives her the emotional space to feel validated. Only then, if she still seems stuck, you can say, "If you want, we could try this." Men who skip this step often wonder why their helpfulness drives women away. Men who master it find women opening up and leaning closer. Because in her world, it's not about the words. It's about how you made her feel while saying them. Men and women experience attraction differently. For men, it's like a light switch. You see a woman, and in a split second, you know whether you're attracted. For women, desire isn't instant. It's responsive. It's a soundboard with 100 dials. Her mood, how safe she feels, whether she trusts you, what happened at work earlier, even how she feels about herself that day. That's why she can be crazy about you on Monday and distant on Wednesday without any obvious reason. It's not manipulation. It's context. But there's another factor most men overlook: pre-selection. Women are wired to notice men who are already desired by other women. It's the same psychology that makes a crowded restaurant look more appealing than an empty one. If no one else wants it, maybe it's not worth having. But if everyone else is lining up, it must be good. That's why guys in relationships often find themselves getting more female attention. It's not coincidence, it's biology. A man with options signals value. A man with none feels invisible. So how do you use this without being manipulative? You stop chasing and start living a life where women are naturally in your orbit. Join a club, pick up a team sport, attend social events. Build a circle where female presence is natural, not forced. When she sees that other women are comfortable around you, laughing with you, drawn to you, her instincts light up. And here's the paradox. When you stop orbiting around her like she's the sun in your universe, her attraction often spikes. Scarcity increases value. Over-availability kills it. So instead of spamming her with attention, focus on building a life worth noticing. When you live with purpose, women sense it. When you surround yourself with energy, women feel it. And when she knows other women want what she has, attraction turns into obsession. Modern women live in a constant push and pull between two opposing voices. On one side, society tells her to be independent, powerful, and self-sufficient. On the other side, biology whispers a different tune. Seek strength, seek leadership, seek a man who stays grounded when things fall apart. That's why she says she wants sensitivity, but finds herself drawn to stoicism. She says she wants safety, but craves risk. She says she wants equality, but her pulse quickens when a man takes the lead. This isn't deception, it's contradiction. And often, she's just as confused as you are. Now add social media to the mix. Every woman today has an endless stream of attention in her pocket. Likes, DMs, comments, emojis from men she's never met. On the surface, it's nothing. But her brain reads it as proof. Proof she has options. Proof she could date higher. Proof she deserves men at the top. Suddenly, the average guy disappears from her radar. The above average becomes her baseline. The best men, the ones she may never even meet, feel within reach simply because they double-tapped her selfie. And then comes the projection trap. Women don't just see you for who you are. They see you for who you could be. A struggling artist who lights her up feels full of potential. A stable accountant who bores her feels like a dead end. And if she's emotionally invested, she assumes you must be too. If she's dreaming about the future, she convinces herself you are as well. That's why she stays in situations where the man clearly doesn't want commitment, because she rewrites the story in her mind. The danger isn't that she lies to you. The danger is that she lies to herself. And when her projection collides with reality, heartbreak is almost guaranteed. Here's a truth most men don't want to hear. Women usually look across or up when choosing partners, rarely down. It's not malice, it's instinct. That's why successful women often say they can't find men, because the pool above them is smaller. At 23, she has more options than she'll ever have. At 23, most men are just starting their climb. By 35, the scales flip. She has fewer choices. He often has more. This is what people call the wall. But don't mistake it for punishment. It's just timing. Here's another reality. Women don't remember relationships in terms of detail. They remember them in terms of emotion. You could make the most logical argument for why she should stay, but if she feels dull, drained, or stuck, it won't matter. Another man could offer nothing rational but spark intense feelings, and she'll chase that instead. And this explains why eagerness to commit can backfire. You think, if I show her I'm ready to marry, she'll see my value. But eagerness signals scarcity. High-value men don't rush. They choose. They're selective. So the paradox is clear. The more you beg to lock her down, the less she wants to be locked down. Meanwhile, countless men waste years stuck in the friend zone. They give her attention, emotional support, sometimes even financial help, while she takes it all guilt-free. Not because she's cruel, but because in her mind, she was clear. We're just friends. She enjoys the benefits of a relationship without giving one in return. And when rejection comes, men and women handle it differently. Men internalize it. I wasn't good enough. Women reframe it. He wasn't ready. The timing was wrong. For men, it feels like a scar. For women, it becomes a rewrite. Together, these realities create the battlefield most men walk into blind. And if you don't learn the rules, you'll keep losing without even knowing why. Here's what shocks most men. Women often live out a dual strategy. One man for excitement, another for stability. The bad boy to light the fire, the provider to keep the lights on. In her 20s, she might chase adrenaline, living off the chaos of men who give her butterflies, but no future. In her 30s, she might look for the anchor who can calm the storm. In her ideal world, she finds both in one man. But that combination is rare. And when she finally leaves, something almost unthinkable happens. Her brain rewrites history. All the good memories become tainted. The laughter, the vacations, the sweet moments. She convinces herself they weren't real or they weren't enough. Once she's done, she tells herself it was always bad, not cruelty, survival. Then comes the maternal shift. The moment she becomes pregnant, her brain changes again. The man who was once her everything suddenly moves into second place. The baby becomes the mission. Evolution rewires her priorities, whether she chooses it or not. And while men often fight openly, through money, muscles, or status, women compete in shadows. Subtle sabotage, whispers, social pressure, a smile in public, a dagger in private. And they've been training since childhood. So here's the truth. Everything you were taught about women, that being endlessly nice, working harder, or proving your worth will win her heart, was never the full story. That's why so many men ended up confused and frustrated. They weren't failing at love. They were playing by the wrong rules. Attraction doesn't respond to checklists, resumes, or perfectly rehearsed lines. It responds to how you make her feel in the moment. Not logic, but emotion. Not effort, but presence. Not perfection, but strength. Women don't want men who orbit them like satellites, constantly available and predictable. They want men who stand grounded, men with their own gravity, men they can lean on without watching him collapse under pressure. And once you see this, the game flips. You stop begging for attention. You stop overthinking every text. You stop doubting yourself. Instead, you begin leading. You begin choosing. You begin living like the man she feels drawn toward, not the man waiting for her approval. And here's the powerful part. Once you see these truths, you can't unsee them. You'll notice them everywhere, in the way she texts, in her tone, in her choices. And from that moment, you'll never waste time on the wrong strategy again. Thank you for watching. If this resonated, share your story in the comments and subscribe, because the next video goes even deeper into the single biggest trigger of female desire, the one thing women cannot resist, no matter how hard they try. Stay tuned. Never underestimate her circle. Friends, family, her social tribe. Sometimes their approval or disapproval weighs heavier than yours ever could. You might survive her doubts, but surviving her group's resistance is another battle entirely. And through all of this, one truth remains. When she says she wants security, she doesn't just mean financial. She means emotional security. She wants to know you won't crack under stress, that when she storms, you stay calm, that you stand firm. A man with little money but calm confidence can feel safer to her than a rich man who collapses under pressure. These truths aren't always easy to swallow. They aren't always pretty. But once you see them, you stop playing blind. You start playing the real game.